He was just another teenager at the mall, shopping, laughing, living a normal day. But in an instant, that ordinary moment turned into a nightmare. Security saw his skin before they saw his innocence. Accusations flew, hands grabbed, and suddenly he was treated like a criminal for simply existing. What they didn't know was who he really was, and what truth would shatter their assumptions. This wasn't just about one arrest. It was about something much bigger. The question is, how far can prejudice blind us before justice finally sees the light? Marcus was 17, a bright student who carried the kind of quiet confidence that came from knowing he had worked hard for every small victory. At home, he was the son his parents were proud of, the one who stayed late studying, the one who talked about his dreams of joining the police force one day, following in the footsteps of a father he deeply admired. To his friends, he was simply Marcus, the kid who loved sneakers, basketball, and hanging out at the mall on weekends. That Saturday was no different. The mall was alive with laughter, music spilling from stores, and the chatter of families moving between shops. Marcus blended into the crowd, carrying nothing but a shopping bag and the joy of a weekend afternoon. It should have been forgettable. It should have been safe. But beneath the bright lights and polished floors, something else stirred. A watchful gaze, a snap judgment ready to be made. To some, Marcus wasn't just a teenager shopping. He was a suspect waiting to be accused. He didn't see it coming, not yet. To him, this was just another ordinary day. What Marcus didn't know was that the line between being a customer and being a criminal in someone's eyes was thinner than he could ever imagine. And he was about to cross it without even moving a step. Marcus strolled through the mall with the ease of a teenager who thought the world was safe for him. He stopped to glance at a display of sneakers, the kind he'd been saving up for, then moved on, unaware that eyes were following him. To him, it was just browsing. To them, it was something else entirely. Two security guards whispered as they watched. One pointed subtly, the other nodded. Their steps quickened as Marcus turned into another store. He never noticed. Why would he? He had nothing to hide. But with every aisle he passed, suspicion trailed behind him like a shadow. It started small. A store clerk hovering too close, pretending to tidy a shelf. A shopper pulling her purse closer as he walked by. These little cuts were familiar, but Marcus had learned to brush them off. Today, though, the air felt heavier. He could sense it now. The stares weren't casual, they were sharp, accusing, waiting. Then, it happened. A firm hand clamped on his shoulder. Marcus spun around, startled, only to see the uniform of mall security. His heart skipped. The guard's face was tight, eyes narrowed as if the verdict was already written. "You need to come with us." The guard's tone made it sound less like a request and more like an arrest. Confusion flashed through Marcus. His shopping bag was light, holding nothing but what he had paid for. Yet before he could explain, another guard stepped in, blocking his path. Around them, shoppers slowed, their curious glances feeding the silent judgment that always seemed to arrive too quickly. Marcus tried to speak, but his words stumbled over fear. He wasn't resisting, but the guards tightened their grip, as if danger radiated from him. To the crowd, the image was clear. A black teenager being escorted for theft. Whispers grew, phones appeared, and Marcus's world shrank to a blur of faces, all watching, none questioning. Every step he took with those guards beside him, the humiliation burned deeper. He thought of his father, the lessons about dignity and patience, about staying calm no matter what. But how calm could he stay when every eye said guilty without knowing a thing about him? They pulled him into a small room at the back of the mall. The walls closed in, bare, cold, suffocating. The guards spread out papers, a report half filled, as if his guilt was just a formality to complete. Marcus's mind raced. He knew he had done nothing wrong. He knew the truth would come out eventually. But what if it didn't? What if this was the moment his life spiraled because of something he couldn't control? His skin, his presence, his very existence in the wrong place at the wrong time. The guards leaned closer, pressing him with questions he couldn't understand, accusations he couldn't fight. Outside, the mall kept moving, families shopping as if nothing had happened. But inside this room, Marcus's life was changing. And the cruelest part? The men gripping his future had no idea who his father was, or what storm they were about to unleash. The interrogation room felt colder by the second. Marcus sat in the hard chair, his palms sweating, his heart pounding so loud it echoed in his ears. The guards hovered, their voices sharp, their questions designed not to seek truth, but to trap him. "Where did you hide it?" one demanded. Another slammed a folder on the table as if force could create evidence. Marcus tried to speak, his voice trembling, but every word was drowned out by their certainty. They weren't listening. They weren't looking at the receipts in his bag or the clean record that spoke louder than any accusation. They were only seeing what they wanted to see. A black teenager guilty before proven innocent. Then the door burst open. Heavy footsteps filled the room, and the mall manager strode in with another officer, this time one with authority radiating from his uniform. Behind him came a man Marcus knew all too well, his father, the police captain. The guards froze, color draining from their faces as realization struck. The teenager they had pinned down, humiliated and branded a thief, was the son of the very man who commanded the badge they wore. But the damage was already done. Marcus's eyes burned, not from fear anymore, but from the sting of betrayal. Even with his father standing tall, even with the sudden shift of power, he couldn't erase the memory of being treated less than human. The silence in that room was louder than any apology could ever be. In that moment, Marcus understood something painful and permanent. Protection didn't come from innocence, from receipts, or even from truth. It came from privilege, and privilege was something not everyone had. And as his father's gaze swept the room, heavy with fury, one question hung in the air like a blade waiting to fall. How many others had suffered the same fate, without anyone to walk through that door and save them? Marcus walked out of that mall beside his father, but not with the same heart he had walked in with. The sting of humiliation lingered, the weight of suspicion pressed on his shoulders, and the silent stares of strangers clung to him long after the crowd had dispersed. Yes, the guards backed down. Yes, apologies were muttered under trembling breaths. But words couldn't undo the way he had been stripped of dignity in front of the world. For Marcus, the lesson was harsh and unforgettable. No matter how hard he studied, no matter how proudly he carried his father's name, the color of his skin would always speak before his voice was heard. That wound ran deeper than any mall incident. It carved into his sense of safety, into his trust in a world that promised fairness, but delivered judgment. And beyond Marcus, the truth echoed louder. For every story where justice barges in through a door, there are countless others where it never arrives. Countless others where young men and women are left voiceless, powerless, branded guilty for nothing more than who they are. This wasn't just about Marcus. It wasn't just about one mall or one mistake. It was a mirror reflecting the painful truth of a society still chained to prejudice. So the question remains, How many more Marcuses will it take before the system listens, before change becomes more than a promise? How many more families must bear the weight of injustice before we decide that enough is truly enough? The story ends here, but the reality does not.